So I'm Jordan Tischler. I'm the producer and president of Digital Bear Entertainment in Boston. We're a well-diversified company. I specialize in artist development. We obviously have a nice facility here where we do recording and mixing. In addition to that, I manage a number of acts nationally, and we have a sister company, songsforsync.com, that does licensing of independent music to television and film. We do a lot of scouting and development, so we actually do sign acts to the company as a roster, where we provide both management services and obviously the production and guidance and image stuff, sort of, really developing acts so that they have the whole ball of wax intact and ready to go. We've really taken on this mantra of the hybrid mixing. For years I've worked completely in the box, and along the time that we started talking about maybe doing an SSL console, I started from the position of, does analog mixing really bring back some je ne sais quoi that has been missing? I've been able to do mixes in the box that were successful and made me happy, and yet at the same time felt like there was a something there. And then of course, we all heard people talking about how, analog mixing was so different, and the question in my mind was, so if I go back towards this, is this something real? Is this something that I'm going to appreciate on a musical and a visceral level? Or is this going to turn out to be sort of the emperor's new clothes, where, the people who love it say they love it and they're wedded to it, and then the people who are in the box have their own point of view? I was really trying to approach it from a very sort of more both emotional and scientific, like really trying to figure out what it meant to me as a musician and as a producer, as a mixer. It's interesting to try out a board where your studio isn't necessarily ready for it, in the sense that, your patch bay isn't there, and you have a bunch of DB25s running around. But once we kind of figure out how to get the thing plugged in, then it became pulling up mixes that I had done of wonderfully successful in-the-box mixes that had been very successful, and going, all right, well, here I have the two mix of that. Let's just do the simplest experiment here, which is forget about all this juicy outboard stuff that we could bring in, but let's just sum it all out, leave everything at unity, and see if just that simple process makes a difference. And what was fascinating to me was that it was evident. Now we're talking about maybe that top 2% worth of difference, so it's not stark or night and day, but it was unmistakable, and it was a feel thing, not a like a, oh, I can hear a, it's got a different response at 2K or something like that. It was just more of a, this feels more like a record. And then what we did was we bounced those mixes that we had done through the board back to 2 tracks, back into the computer. And then I had a buddy of mine who's also a phenomenal engineer named Mike Burke come over, and we spent the day trying to fool each other, basically blinding the other one and running these mixes back and forth by each other. And we actually sat and took note, like, okay, I like A, okay, I like B, and kept it a log. And at the end of the day, we tallied it up, and it was sort of like 90 to 10 in favor of the board mixes. I think that, monitoring has been dramatically easier with the board. Having a main monitor knob as well as alternate monitor levels, fantastic. And of course the board sounds good. And in terms of the mixing capabilities, it's a wonderful way to integrate all of this outboard gear. So not only does the board have this sound that by itself elevates your abilities as a mixer, but then you have the ability to integrate all of this sort of the juicy stuff in the rack. And that's kind of key, because most of us at this point have accumulated stuff we don't really want to give up just because we're working in the box. I've got 4 of the E-series EQs and 4 of the E-series compressors, and I've been hard pressed in retrospect to decide whether I wanted the I love the EQs, the E-series equipment, and these sound fantastic, but I think I might need some of the super analog ones too. There's not an either or, it's definitely a both situation. But these things sound fantastic, and they sound like what they're supposed to sound like, and they have the flexibility that SSL is known for. And the wonderful thing about the X-Rack is the way with a little 9-pin cable it connects into the Matrix, and then you get this wonderful little application up on the screen, and your recall is there for you. The things that really sold me on it conceptually remain the things that I'm in love with it for, and that is first and foremost the sound. It really sounds like an SSL, and it really has continued even after our experiment to live up to this idea that it is somehow different from mixing in Pro Tools or in Cubase. Cubase was what I do a lot of work in. Less so now, unfortunately. So the sound really hasn't worn off. There's been no honeymoon that's gone by, if you will. And then the control aspects of it. The fact that that you can monitor a huge number of channels, that you can flip between monitoring your analog path and affecting or controlling the in-the-box stuff. Essentially gives you a much bigger board than it really is. And that's been fantastic, and for certain sorts of things, automation in the box is wonderful, for example, and for certain types of EQ maneuvers, plugins are maybe even easier, and so it's great to be able to really go in there and grab those tools. And at the same time being able to then bring out what you're doing onto the board, insert wonderful things like the APIs or the SSL compressors and EQs. The best of both worlds is really what it's about. It's awesome. I couldn't be more happy and excited about it.